Okay, my name's Charlie Wilhelm, General, United States Marine Corps, retired.
All right. Thank you so much for taking time with us today. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Let's just go right into it. How about if you share some memories of Al Gray?
I'd hardly know where to start. There's so many of them. And actually, I got started a bit late. I really didn't get to know General Gray until I was a brigadier general. And, I would offer this observation. We've had good commandants, we've had great commandants, and we've had very, very few really iconic commandants. And General Al Gray, the 29th Commandant, was one of them. And I can build on that a little bit if you'd like. When I first met General Gray as a newly minted brigadier general, really the Marine Corps and the rest of the armed forces were still recovering from the post-Vietnam hangover, but the worst of it was over. Many of the units that had been cadreed immediately following the war had once again been reactivated. But there was a need for the Marine Corps really to get back to its roots. We had had very, very meager funding from the Congress in the post-war period. Training was not what it should have been. I've often said, what do you measure? Do you measure what's easily measurable, or do you measure what's important? And in that period, in my view, we had kind of become bookkeepers. The things that were important were things like unit diary acceptance rates and how current your files and directives were. And General Gray put an end to that. You're going to stop being bookkeepers and you're going to start being warriors again. And then just to cap it off real quickly with what I consider to be the indispensable things that General Gray did. One, he published Warfighting. And number two was he really introduced us in very forceful terms to maneuver warfare. And those concepts, the things that we espoused, the skills that we developed, have persisted until this day, and hopefully they will into the future.
Do you remember the first day you met General Gray? Did you have a personal story you could tell about that?
Yeah, I do. General Gray had a real love affair with Camp Lejeune here, and I was one of those guys who hung out on the left coast. I spent most of my time at Camp Pendleton and on the other side of the Pacific. So I didn't really know General Gray real well. I had been one of the MEU commanders, and of course, General Gray really had a deep affection for MEU commanders. He just thought it was the greatest job in the Marine Corps, and I tended to agree with him. And so he didn't know me, and he was telling everyone what their first assignment would be. And as he went around the room, he said, "Charlie Wilhelm," he said, "I don't know too much about you, and I don't know what we're going to do with you." And I think he said, "And no one has asked for your services." So I said, "Hey, here's a guy who speaks straightforward, right off the shoulder, so, there's no pretense here."
Awesome. When you think of the Marine Corps values, what stands out to you in those values?
Well, I think, honor, courage, and commitment, those are the three buzzwords that we use all the time. But, it's a little bit like Rotary International, service above self. We have too many self-absorbed people in this country today. And the Marine Corps, it's all about pronouns. We and us are far better words than I and me. And General Gray brought that home in a very forceful way to all of us.
Have you been to the Beirut Memorial? You see the names on the wall. What does that mean to you?
I have. I was in Beirut on the day of the explosion. It brings back painful memories. What other kind of memories could there be? 241 great young Americans, some not so young, who were snuffed out in a heartbeat, performing a mission that was not really very clearly defined. And I think that also, I know that had an impact on General Gray, and he kind of reached a determination that, and a vow that this will never happen again.
It was impactful to our community as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure if you were there at the time, but in this community, the 241 were from Camp Lejeune. Do you remember anything about that time as far as how people were responding to the events that occurred?
Well, of course, in Beirut, it was crisis management across the board. And I was over there. I had been detached from United States European Command. I had been stationed in Stuttgart, and I was over serving in a liaison function between the embassy. At that time, we were quartered in the UK embassy after ours had been, of course, attacked with the loss of a great many lives. And, everyone pulled together strongly there. I remember, of course, Tim Garrity. I remember Captain Morgan France, really courageous men who were handled a tough job. And I think, based on the guidance they got, they did it as well as it could have been done. But things occur that are beyond your control, and things occur that are not necessarily predictable. And of course, we have the fact that within 5 minutes of the attack on our position at the Beirut International Airport, 60 French paratroopers were killed at the Hippodrome in downtown Beirut. So I think we got a preview of coming attractions with terrorists. I hate to use that term, but I think it gave us a sobering look at what our future might be.
Have you been to the annual observance here in Jacksonville? I'm for the Beirut Memorial.
I have not made one of the annual observances.
Okay.
No, I haven't.
Right. Well, we'll just move right over then, and I think one last question that I'd like to ask you. So you've talked a little bit about General Gray's leadership. If you are talking to somebody else about him and you're trying to describe this man to somebody who's never met him before, when you think of his leadership, what do you say?
You're going to meet a man whose physical stature really belies who he is. He is a giant among men. And though he may be gruff and occasionally strident in his speech, he is a true intellectual. He's a man that really understands the essence of important issues. He knows how to bring points home to people. He is demanding, but never demands more of others than he demands of himself.